We are here for another live session, and we're going to touch on different topics in the news that are of importance to everyone, hopefully. And by all means, remember that you are in a live session, that you are welcome to participate and put your comments in up on the screen. By all means, this is an open conversation for everyone. So let's move on. Great to see everybody jumping online tonight. It's Tuesday, April the 22nd, 2025, and what a day it has been. Both globally and right here close to home, we've got politics heating up, some significant local developments, and major international stories unfolding. So let's dive into some of the headlines that caught my eye today. And hey, this is interactive, right? So again, jump in and into the chat room and share your thoughts, reactions, and any questions you have as we go along. Welcome, Mr. Nobody, to the show. This is Live Chat with James. First up, let's talk Canadian politics, because we are officially in the final week before the federal election on the 28th. Things are definitely getting intense. The big news today is that Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre finally released his party's full-costed platform. It includes promises like significant deficit reduction and a 15% income tax cut. Lots of focus now on specific spending plans, the proposed cuts, and maybe some lingering questions about the details. We saw him holding a rally in Vaughan, Ontario today as well. But let's not forget that there have been other questions about different policies and promises that he's made throughout this campaign, and that's politics. Of course, we don't know who's going to follow through and who's not. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to tell anybody who to vote for. I'm just going to say get out and vote. Regardless as to who you're voting for in this election, it's important that everybody uses their democratic rights and get out there to place your vote, have your voice heard. Meanwhile, the polls are showing that the race is tightening, while the Liberals under Mark Carney seem to be still slightly ahead, according to the polls. That lead, though, has apparently shrunk, and some reports put the gap within the margin of error now. It looked like the Liberals had a strong lead just a couple of weeks ago, so this makes the final stretch incredibly important. Prime Minister Carney, for his part, has been talking about boosting internal trade within Canada to counteract the impact of those U.S. tariffs imposed by President Trump. Framing it as giving ourselves more than Trump can take away. So again, very important issues that are coming up throughout the election. And of course, Sukh Pandher, the current candidate for the Conservative Party in Surrey's Fleetwood and Port Kells community, has been asked to respond to some accusations and some photos that have surfaced of him with a high-level police officer in India who has been alleged to have been participating in extrajudicial killings involved in the assassination of Sikhs in Punjab, as well as other human rights violations. So again, Sukh Pandher has been asked to respond to these allegations or these images that show him on stage at an event in India with this individual, but we're waiting on that. There's been no response as of yet. Now, as we speak of government finances, if you filed your taxes electronically early, you might have seen the final Canada carbon tax rebate payment land today. This is the last one as the consumer carbon pricing program ended. Interesting timing coming just before the election, which some economists are pointing out to that. Now let's bring it closer to home. For those in Surrey, British Columbia, there was a significant event today for policing in our city. The official change of command ceremony for the police service of Surrey, or the Surrey Police Service. While the Surrey Police Service took over the jurisdiction last year, the ceremony with Chief Constable Norm Lipinski and the RCMP's commanding officer made it formal. It is now official and kind of closing that chapter on the long transition saga that we've all been dragged through. With that said, though, Chief Lipinski mentioned they're gaining some momentum in hiring, aiming for about 300 more officers, and plan to expand into South Surrey later this year. Mayor Brenda Locke was there, acknowledging the past debates, but emphasizing on moving forward. On a less positive note for the local news, there are reports today about the Surrey School District cutting 50 education assistant positions. This is definitely causing concern and discussions about inclusive educational supports. And again, that is here in the city of Surrey. With the special needs programs that help to bring education to a level playing field for those who may have special learning challenges or needs. This is not a good look for the city of Surrey and for the Surrey School Board. Hopefully there can be some last minute discussions and a resolution found to maintain these very important roles. Again, 50 education assistant positions being cut is definitely not in the best interest of students in the district. Now, Surrey is one of the largest cities in the province of British Columbia and also one of the fastest growing cities in Canada. To see us moving backwards and reducing the number of learning assistants and teaching assistants, that to me is a very big concern. If you have concerns, by all means, email the mayor as well as the Surrey School District and make your concerns known, as if people do not speak out about these cuts to the education assistant positions, the city's going to move forward with it. But the more people that demand answers and a reconsideration for this, of course, we can hopefully see some changes to that decision and to the moving forward with those cuts. Another local business story, the owner of the Peace Arch Duty Free, which anybody in the Lower Mainland is familiar with if you've crossed the border at all at the Peace Arch. But the owner is reporting major struggles with sales way down, blaming continued U.S. tensions and the trade situation keeping travelers away. They're apparently calling for government relief similar to pandemic support. It highlights how these bigger geopolitical issues can hit businesses right here in Surrey and in your local community. As I know, many of you might have been caught in the traffic this morning in the crash of the Massey Tunnel, and that messed up the counterflow lane, but hey, it's never fun trying to commute in Metro Vancouver, so hopefully you made it home easier than you made it to work this morning. So, turning to the world stage, a lot of attention is on the Vatican following the passing of Pope Francis. With that said, of course, there has been some controversy surrounding comments made by Marjorie Taylor Greene in the U.S. Essentially, she tweeted out that basically she was happy that he was dead, and just the callous ignorance of Marjorie Taylor Greene showing through in the MAGA group. That was just beyond anything that I've seen of a politician who can put out such public statements on X, on any other platform, and not have to answer to it. I thought it was just disgusting. It was completely a lack of respect for what Pope Francis had accomplished and for his legacy as well as the church in general. Now, his funeral is scheduled for this Saturday, April the 26th at St. Peter's Square. There's a reflection on his legacy, including his historic apology here in Canada to residential school survivors, and naturally speculation about who might succeed him. Interestingly, some are asking if a Canadian could be the next pope. We'll have to wait and see on that one. At the same time, of course, we know that there are going to be world leaders and everyone at the funeral this weekend, and I will bring you updates about that as they come available on tomorrow night's show and throughout the rest of the week. Now, as we continue on internationally, the economy, of course, is still a big theme. The International Monetary Fund released projections today that suggest President Trump's tariffs are expected to significantly slow both U.S. and global economies this year. We saw markets rebound a bit today, perhaps on reported comments about the U.S. Treasury, from the U.S. Treasury Secretary and even Donald Trump himself, suggesting an openness to easing the trade war with China, but there's still a lot of uncertainty rattling investors. Now, with that said, of course, Donald Trump is talking about reducing the level of tariffs against China, and he claims that it has to do with various things. But of course, we all know it's because he is losing his tariff war with the world. It is having a much bigger impact on the global markets, on the U.S. markets, on the U.S. economy, and of course, on the cost of living for Americans. And he's starting, I think, to realize how much of a mistake his tariffs have been and what a destructive event they have been on all Americans and on the global community. Now, the question is going to be, of course, now that he is reducing the different tariffs on China, is he going to back off on a lot of the tariffs with other nations, or is he planning on moving forward with more tariffs again at the end of his pause period that he announced earlier this month? Now, it seems to be very unpredictable, it seems to be very chaotic, and there doesn't seem to be any rhyme nor reason. He's now talking about reduction of different tariffs on Canada because the news about the reduced numbers of people in fentanyl going across the border from Canada to the U.S., there's been a big reduction there. He thinks that, he's going to throw us a bone to reward us. But at the end of the day, it really wasn't as big of an issue as Donald Trump led Americans and the world to believe. With that said, of course, he brought that up again the other day when he had a press conference with the president of Italy, and she just basically rolled her eyes and covered her face with her palm at some points. I think that was to hide how hard she was biting her lip to not actually call Donald Trump out on some of his bullshit he was spewing to the media in that press event. Now, also making international headlines, of course, is the criminal trial for 5 former members of Canada's 2018 World Junior Hockey team that began in London, Ontario. They've pled not guilty to sexual assault charges, and the jury has now been selected. On the conflict front, Russia's Putin apparently stated that he's open to bilateral talks with Ukraine, although nothing direct has happened since early 2022. Mediators are also working on a new plan for Israel-Hamas conflict, though neither side has commented yet amid growing strikes in Gaza. And finally, let's not forget what day it was today. April the 22nd was Earth Day. It's the 55th anniversary with the theme Our Power, Our Planet. It's a global reminder about protecting our environment, things like reducing plastic, planting trees, community cleanups, supporting sustainable practices, and climate education are all parts of that focus. Okay, now that was a lot, and we went through it fairly quickly, folks. Thank you for joining into the program. Now, with that final election push from Canada, tomorrow I will actually be covering the visit of Mark Carney in Surrey, British Columbia tomorrow, so I will have some footage that I'll bring back to share on tomorrow night's show. Again, we'll be covering Mark Carney's visit to Surrey, British Columbia tomorrow, so we'll share that on tomorrow night's live chat as well, and we'll discuss whatever it is that he has to say. So yeah, other than that, remember, we are live here. So again, if you have something on your mind, put it up in the comments section, join the chat. And by all means, let me know what story stands out to you. Did the Conservative platform details catch your eye? Are you worried about the school cuts in Surrey? Thoughts about the Pope's legacy or the ongoing trade tensions? Again, let's talk about it. Let me know in the chat room. Welcome, Carlos Garcia. Glad to see you joining the show. Welcome, 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 everyone. Now, as we continue to chat here, again, by all means, just add into the chat whatever comments you would like. We can even talk about the silliness that is continually going on down south of the border. And of course, we know that Hegseth once again has been called out for his lack of common sense in using the chat app called Signal. It appears that there were other people on the chat, in a second chat this is, that included his wife, his lawyer, his brother, and others. And yeah, it appears that, again, sensitive and secret information was released in that chat, although he is denying it and downplaying it once again. When asked on Easter about it, he just basically put it off on the media, trying to make it out as though the media was just feeding from information being provided by people who had been fired by Hegseth recently. Again, these whistleblowers are speaking about the chaos that is the Pentagon right now, and all of the lack of security seriousness that Hegseth should be applying and displaying by not using publicly available chats on his private phone or his personal phone, and things like that. So again, but the White House doesn't seem to be really taking it too seriously and dealing with it well enough. But again, these should be seen as very serious concerns by Americans and by the White House, and they just seem to be trying to brush it aside yet once again. A part of the issue, of course, is that if Donald Trump starts firing anybody out of the cabinet and in top positions in which he has appointed them, then he may look weak or more of a failure than we already know he is. And that is just my opinion, at least. By all means, if you disagree, you're more than welcome to put it up in the comment section and chat about it. But again, I just think that it has been a gong show from the word go with this entire Trump administration. It would not surprise me to see this Trump administration just self-implode or collapse in on itself within the next 6 months, and the U.S. being in a crisis to go to the polls or to replace Trump and a lot of the administration by that point. I give it 6 months before it just basically implodes on itself with the chaos that they've created at this point. But again, I could be wrong. It, surprised me in the fact that he was elected to a second term at all. So I've been surprised before, and we'll see what happens. Diana, welcome. Welcome to the show, to the program. Feel free to put your comments in the comment section and join the chat. Any topics are open. We can chat about anything that people desire to talk about at this late hour of the night or this early hour of the morning, depending on your time zone. Now, other things, of course, I touched on earlier was Marjorie Taylor Greene and her comments about the Pope essentially being glad that he's dead, which I thought was just beyond any level of respect or decorum that you would expect out of a politician. But again, nothing seems to be surprising me when it comes to politicians out of the U.S. right now. Natalie, welcome to the program. By all means, if you have something you want to chat about, put it up in the comment section. I was just raising about Marjorie Taylor Greene's disrespect of the Pope and the Church, and all of the major changes that the Pope brought with him to the Church and to the Vatican. So again, his funeral will be happening this weekend. We'll keep you updated on more information about that as the week goes on. Shah Zaman Khan, welcome to the program. And I don't know why it's giving me an error message, but hey, it usually does, so that's whatever. It's just one of the glitches in the program, I do believe. So yeah, it is keeping very interesting in the political race right now. As I said, the gap between the Liberals and the Conservatives has definitely closed within the last few weeks. Right now, it potentially could be within the error of margin for the difference between the two. So it's heating up to be a final stretch coming into the actual polls, and election night coming in just 6 days. So again, I hope everybody gets out and actually votes. It's not about who you vote for. It's about making sure that you exercise your democratic right to place your vote and have your voice heard. And yeah, so that's where we are at, folks. Other than that, there is nothing else too exciting going on here at ProPix TV, just the same old, same old. So with that said, we have covered today's major stories, major headlines, both locally, nationally, and internationally. And so we will call it the end of another episode of Live Chat with James at the ProPix TV studios in Vancouver, British Columbia. Thank you for tuning in. Once again, join us tomorrow night around 11:45 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for another episode of Live Chat with James. If you are watching this program either on a repeat through TikTok or through YouTube or any of our other platforms, or if you are listening as a podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and so forth, by all means, share your ideas. You can also email us at smile@propixcanada.com. That's smile@propixcanada.com. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe, everyone.